Well, it's great to be at the training ground of Oxford United Football Club, and we've got two very special people here who we're going to talk about suicide too and mental health. We're joined first of all by Jessie Beauchamp. Jessie is 16, and Jessie, you lost your dad, a very much loved and talented player from Oxford United. And Will, you're a current player who lost both of his grandfathers to suicide.
Correct.
And you know, I speak as somebody who also lost my own son to suicide. So we kind of, I think, probably understand each other quite a bit. Jessie, first of all, thank you so much for doing this. You know, that is so brave, just 16. Why did you want to do it?
It's more now I'm old enough to speak about my own experiences, and I want to get my point across about it, because I feel like it's happened 3 years ago now, and I've had my time to like process it a lot and understand why he did what he did and how I feel about it now. And I want to get my point across and speak up and make people who've gone through the same thing as me understand why they're feeling the way they are and talk about it. Yeah.
What was going on in 13-year-old Jessie Beauchamp's life at the time this tragedy struck you and your family?
Well, my dad wasn't very it was obvious that something was going on, and throughout my whole childhood he did struggle a lot with like addictions and depression, so it was obvious that it was going on. And for me, you can see it and you're living in it, and it was hard for me to see him the way he was.
How much did you kind of live it, and how much did you as a child try to put it to one side? Were you, how aware of it?
It was more because there's that saying where you take 2 years to grieve, and it's so true. You do kind of brush it to the side, and especially him being in the public eye, there was a lot of people involved in it, and that in a way kind of distracted my own feelings of it, because it was people were saying stuff about it and speaking for me, and it kind of made me push my feelings to the side, and it took me a long time to grieve through it and process my feelings.
Come back to you in a second.
Yeah.
But Will, how old were you when you found out that your first granddad took his life, and what was the impact for you?
Yeah, I was 13, and similar to Jessie. I have to say I couldn't have spoke 3 years after that, so incredibly brave, make me emotional. Yeah, I was 13, and like Jessie's saying, a lot of complex emotions for a young person. Don't understand it, why, what could I have done, a family. The main thing for me is the aftermath of what happened with my family. You don't forget those years, seeing your mum and dad, incredibly upset and trying to move on, and it takes a lot of time, and I just don't, why I'm here. I don't want families to go through what mine and all of ours sadly have been through.
Jessie, I know that, in my own case, and I was an adult dealing with this, my entire life fell apart. Black was white and white was black. Nothing made sense. How did you react initially?
It was really hard. It affected me in every way possible, but I kind of like I said, I just brushed it to the side, and I had to go back to school. It happened in the half term. I had to go back to school week after. I just remember thinking, I'm just gonna act like I'm normal, like nothing's happened. And I just went in, and I do remember everyone kind of feels awkward around you, and it was they didn't know what to say or how to be around me, and it was quite hard just trying to fit back in to routine. But obviously coming back home, it was so hard, because I had my sister around me struggling, and I have to be the bigger person for her, and then I have my mum as well, and it was really hard. And yeah.
What's got you through this past 3 years?
Distractions, friends, family, school especially. I've just put my all into everything else, and yeah, just distract myself from how I actually feel.
And how have people changed towards you? Have you noticed a change from the way that people talk to you and the way that people treat you 3 years on?
Yeah, it was more like at the start, I had loads of messages about everything and people were saying like, oh, I hope you're okay and everything, but now it's more, people just kind of forget about it, don't really check up on you, really. Yeah.
Do people think you've moved on?
Yeah, massively. It's like, it's done now, but it's obviously it affects you every day, and people don't understand that unless they've been through it.
No. I mean, I always say that, you know, in the immediate aftermath, there are people there for you,
Yeah.
friends, neighbours, cards, flowers and all the rest of it. But it's further down the line, you know, in the middle of winter or whatever, 2 years on, it's you do feel alone, don't you, sometimes? Yeah. Well, how about you, you know, from the age of 13, how much has it shaped you as an individual, would you say?
I think probably more so over the last few years. Probably delving into what happened and the emotion surrounding it. Because I think, similar to Jessie, as a child, I think you kind of bury it. You try to bury it, which is, you know, hopefully even speaking like this will help you, because if you don't speak like that, eventually it comes out, I think, in other ways, or it can come out in other ways. And I think that's why it's important we talk about suicide, because suicide is so different to any other death, in my opinion. And we all deal with it differently, and people don't know what to say to you. That's the thing. And, you know, I remember being angry at the time at school, and you might have felt the same at like the way my friends or teachers even would ask me about what had happened, but like as if it was normal. And I was like, it's not normal. As a child, I remember feeling really angry. But the distraction of school, you come home like you, and then home is the worst time, because then you're back to reality. Yeah. Oh no, my mum's dealing with, you know, losing her dad. Yeah, and then you're in the midst of it. So yeah, it's probably made me, I like to think now, for going through everything, probably more empathetic, a little bit more aware of how people are feeling, understanding mental health. At the end of the day, both my granddads clearly had, you know, really low mental health. You don't take your own life if you don't. And I want to use it as a positive. You know, I'm a lot further through the grieving process than Jessie is, and yourself. And now I feel ready to try and use it for a positive, to stop people, you know, like I said before, going through the same thing.
Yeah. You're a real role model, Will, and Jessie, also to you and your family. You've got the Joey Beauchamp Foundation. Tell us a bit about that and how it works.
Well, it's my Uncle Luke started it, and he wanted to help.
Joey's brother.
Yeah, he wanted to help people, especially in the football industry, who don't have the support that they should have, and they want to offer that, and also help the families that go through it, and give them advice on what they should do, and speaking out and reaching out to the right people about it.
My son, in his farewell letter, asked me to campaign for better mental health in the UK, and it seemed to give me a real sense of purpose despite the pain and the grief. How do you feel about that? Because for you to come here today and to do this interview, you must feel very strongly about it as well. Yeah,
I do want a lot more to do with it, and I want to take my side of the story onto it, and I do feel like I feel better about myself from doing it today, and I do believe that I can make a big impact on it, especially coming from a younger generation. It will boost it a bit.
You definitely will. You have no idea, or probably you do. I don't know, but you know, you're a role model too. Well, just sort of going back to you for a moment, you know, you're in many ways quite a privileged position. You know, you've got people who look up to you, who respect you, and who listen to you. You know, what's your advice to other people, not just about how you use your own pain, but about being open and transparent around mental health and suicide prevention?
Yeah, I think, you know, we're three people who've all lost men in our lives to suicide. We know it's the biggest killer of men under 50. And I think men, sadly, are still reluctant to talk. I think the main thing is to show vulnerability. I think actually that's such a strength, and I'd like to think we're moving in the right direction in the dressing rooms I've been in, which is, you know, as macho as you get, really. I think elite sports people who, you know, are trying to be at the top of the game all the time. Actually, for a player to, or a person, anyone, to speak openly and honestly in that dressing room, that is much braver and more of a something you should be proud of than thinking I'm being really brave by keeping this to myself. So the main thing for me, and that's where I've come this kind of full circle where I'm willing to kind of put myself out there a bit more. If I can talk about it, you know, on camera in these kind of scenarios about what I've personally been through, then hopefully, you know, that man, woman, whoever who listens to it, who's actually struggling, can talk to their mate or their, you know, ring the helplines that are out there, and realise that that can be the difference between being sat here as us or sat here, you know, not having lost someone. So without waffling on, I want to use my platform, however big or small that may be, to be a positive influence and get all the Oxford fans and all the fans and people out there who listen to this to realise that they can talk up and make a change.
Just finally, I mean, you know, Joey was in that macho environment, you're in that macho environment now. Do you see reasons for hope and reasons for improvement?
Yeah, I do, and I think I'm at a generation where I've probably seen just the start of football with like no social media and it was very macho, very dressing room was like, it has moved now, but it's also moved with the negatives that come with social media and online abuse and all this stuff that we face. But I would say as a positive thing on a whole, the dressing rooms, and I'd like to think that goes to wider society. You know, my group of friends definitely talk more to each other than my dad's group of friends did, or my granddad's group of friends. There's no way my granddad spoke to his friends the way that I'd like to think my friends would, but we have to keep pushing it because you still get your silent players or your silent friends and dads who just go to the pub and pretend everything's okay when it isn't, and they're the people that we need to do these things for, to, you know, realise that they can, and once they do, they realise life can get so much better.
And to you, Jessie, I mean, to people of your generation, what would you say to them about how they deal, not just with suicide, but, you know, poor mental health, when somebody's really in that dark place, as you have been? What can you advise them to do? What can you say worked for you?
Just to talk about it to anyone, literally everyone. It just clears your mind and it gets the weight off your shoulders about it. And even if they don't understand it, it's better to just let it out and take that weight off your shoulder instead of having that cave you down. And it's just better to speak.
Brilliant. Jessie and Will, thanks both very much indeed. And here we are talking about a subject that, you know, only a few short years ago was completely taboo. So I guess the times are changing. You happy? Yeah, you all right?
Well done, you.
Yeah.
Bloody hell.
You,
I was thinking you can't come to me yet, Mike. Cause,
you have got to use this.
Yeah, brilliant.
You're amazing. Amazing. I mean, I've been working 40 years in front of a camera, and my God, you're 13. 16. Sorry, I keep thinking.
You're not that good.